Hey, Jenny Lynn here, creator of Fusion Mineral Paint. Today I'm using Alchemy in this beautiful terracotta color. I'm going to be taking this vintage piece and giving it a beautiful brand new look with this punch of color. And it's so easy to do. In just a matter of an hour, I'm going to completely transform this piece, add a little dark wax to it to give it a little bit of depth, and follow along with the tutorial to find out all the steps and how we make this beautiful. It's super easy to make over a piece like this. There's not a lot of prep required, but the most important thing you want to do all the time is grab our TSP alternative. It's an organic degreaser. This is a highly concentrated formula. So you take 2 capfuls of this, put it into a liter of water, and use that as your cleaning solution. Wipe it all down, let it dry, and in 10 minutes, you're ready to grab your Alchemy. I'm using the terracotta color. Let's get started. So I went ahead, I applied TSP alternative all over this, washed it down. It's squeaky clean, ready to go. I got rid of the dirt and the grease that was on this. However, when I was cleaning, I did notice a couple of imperfections in the top. So I'm gonna grab a light grit sandpaper and I'm just gonna kind of smooth those out so at least the top looks really nice and smooth. But this is a more vintage piece, so it's okay if we have the odd sort of nick and such in it. But anyhow, if you ever want to just make sure that your surface is super beautiful and smooth, grab a little bit of sandpaper and give it a go. So this piece is already quite a dull piece of furniture. If you were to prep something that was like really shiny, it is a great idea to give it a light sanding as well, just to really bring down that sheen. It allows the paint more tooth and grip so that it can really adhere to the surface. It's often a lot easier than you think as well. Just a little pass back and forth and you really bring the sheen down on your surface. All right, I love working with Stahlmeister brushes. They are phenomenal quality, perfect for this piece of furniture. This one in particular has some natural bristles mixed in with some synthetic, so it's really gonna hold that paint and give me excellent coverage. This is our oval brush, and just so we get you the series number, so if you're looking for it, it's our 2010 45 oval. Love, love, love this brush. If you're gonna invest in a brush, this is my first sort of go-to that I recommend. All right, couple of tips when painting. Less is more. You actually don't need to put so much paint on your brush because you could actually create a little bit of texture and brush strokes that way if you have too much, but that's also a great tip if that's what you're going for. So you don't have to worry too much, just slap it on, get it on there and work end to end. The first coat is going to be decent coverage, but don't ever expect full solid coverage with one coat. Many of us kind of want to get the job done as quickly as possible and think, oh, you know what? I'm just going to add more paint onto it and then I'll be finished sooner. But what can happen is you can get a little bit more texture that way. It can be a little problematic, but you'll learn. It's just a learning process. Less is more. Wow, the coverage is fantastic on this one. So I may be using a little bit much and then I just kind of wipe back the excess. If you've got too much, it'll just kind of leave some brush strokes behind. But the coverage is fantastic. And then also, if you push really hard on the surface when you're applying the paint, it also kind of removes it. So you want to have just sort of like a nice light pressure with your hand and not go too deep with it. Let me see if I can show you what I mean by applying too much pressure. So we do that there. See how it kind of thins it out a little bit? Not sure if it shows up well on camera or not, but maybe just let the brush glide. There we go. And again, first coat, never gonna look perfect. Sometimes you got like a little bit of a panic mode going on, especially when you're covering a really light paint with a dark color like this one, or vice versa. If you got a dark surface and you're covering with a light paint, you're gonna kind of freak out with that first coat. Painting should be painless, so I decided to elevate my piece off of the floor to save my back and my knees a little bit. Painting should always be an enjoyable process. One of the reasons why I chose working with this particular brush, the bristles are super durable. So I'm able to get into the corners and really push that brush in there and not worry about damaging my brush while still getting really, really good coverage. As I'm painting with this, I'm noticing how many layers of previous paint it has on it. There's tons of brush strokes, but I'm okay with it because it's a very vintage look. So I'm really just putting the paint on and not being too particular, but I am sort of smoothing out any drips of paint. You don't want to leave drips on there. The first coat takes about 30 minutes to an hour to dry, depending on the humidity and the temperature in your space. I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy it is to get great coverage with your second coat. That's typically where you really see that wow factor. We finished our 2 coats of terracotta. It's now had a chance to dry. I like to let it sit for a couple of hours before I go ahead and put a wax on top of it. You'll notice that it's a super matte, flat finish. So this means it's kind of almost a bit of a porous paint. So you'll want to be very careful when you're going to use any kind of an aging or tinted wax, because it can really drastically change the color that you have there. So a little tip first is to use the clear wax. So I'm going to show you putting the clear wax on. Really simple. I'm using our beautiful lavender scented essential oil wax. And I'm going to use our big wax brush here, and I'm just going to put a layer on. There we go. I'm going to hold that. And you can see it's going to add a little bit of sheen to seal up that paint. And it kind of intensifies the color as you're working with it. So now when I go ahead and I want to use my black wax just to give it a little bit of depth, it's not going to overpower. So I can just go ahead there with some of the black. And if I didn't put that clear on, it's quite possible that it would look a little bit too intense. I'm just going to blend with my brush, with my wax brush. You could also just use a rag as well. And I'm just leaving a little bit of that nice dark wax behind. I can choose to leave more, take away more. Grab a little buffing cloth here. So essentially, I'm going to kind of do this to the whole piece, and then I'm going to take a look and maybe add a little more black in some areas. I also have espresso, which is more of a brown undertone, so I can play with the different tones that I've got and just kind of take a look at it, play with it. And don't worry, wax is super easy. If you ever need to remove it, you could try the clear wax, and it kind of works as a magic eraser. So I wanted to put quite a bit of the wax in these lines and details here. And then I'm going to come by with my rag and start to buff away, but I want to keep a lot of that wax in the grooves here. So it's going to show the details, and it's going to look like it's kind of been sitting around for a long time in a garage collecting dust or been painted for a while. Even up here in this corner, it just looks really, really aged and antiqued. So it's really simple. You just throw that wax on and buff off what you don't want to have left behind. And you've got this really nice accenting and detailing. So using the wax is one great way to create a more aged and antiquing distressed look without truly distressing, because underneath here was a white finish. So I'm kind of faking the distressing by using this wax. Now this area here has a lot of texture on this little handle and hinge, so I was just going to throw in a lot of wax there and buff off just a little bit of it, so you kind of really get that grungy, aged look from it. One way of thinking of it is antiquing is sort of adding to your surface. So here we're adding a tinted wax. You can also do tinted glazes in and just really give it a whole new look. Whereas distressing, think of it as removing something off your surface. So you're sanding down the edges and removing this layer. Well, that was easy. I absolutely love how the terracotta color turned out with this beautiful black and espresso wax on it. I love this piece. I can't wait to stage it up and show you the final reveal.